In March, I experienced one of those magical moments in the theater. And I hope that we're never too old and jaded to say that we have magical moments, because it was magic. Because that's when I saw The Ballad of the American Arts, written and performed by Wynton Marsalis and a group of amazing musicians. As I sat in the audience at the Kennedy Center, this was for the Nancy Hanks lecture, I thought, GIA members need to see this, and GIA members need to hear what Wynton has to say. So, back in my office, I picked up the phone and I called my friend Bob Lynch, because of course Americans for the Arts had invited him to prepare this piece for the Nancy Hanks lecture. And I thought maybe Bob could help, and he did. And then I picked up the phone and called Adrian Ellis, because I knew that Adrian was a friend of GIA, who heads the Jazz at Lincoln Center, and said, what do you think, Adrian? Think we can make this happen? And he said, yes, I think we can. And then Wynton said, yes, I'm in town and I'll do it. And that's magic. And I want you to know that one of my assumptions through life has always been, it never hurts to ask. Unfortunately, Bob Lynch isn't here, wasn't able to join us today at GIA, but Nina Ozlu Tunceli is here to represent Americans for the Arts and introduce Mr. Marsalis. Nina is Chief Counsel of Government and Public Affairs for Americans for the Arts and Executive Director of the Americans for the Arts Action Fund. I was on the Americans for the Arts board when Bob Lynch hired Nina, and about 15 years ago, and I'll have to tell you that I think it's one of the smartest things he's ever done. And you know what, he would say the same thing. For 15 years, Nina has been Americans for the Arts Chief Policy Strategist, overseeing all of its federal, state, and local government and public affairs work, grassroots advocacy campaigns, policy development, and national coalition building efforts with both cultural and civic organizations to advance the arts in America. Nina produces several programmatic events annually, including National Arts Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill, the Nancy Hanks Lecture, and Arts and Public Policy at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and the National Public Leadership for the Arts Awards, which is presented in partnership with the United States Conference of Mayors. And if you ask her, she will also talk to your public policy graduate students every August, and she'll take the time to do it. Nina is an attorney with a law degree from the University of Richmond School of Law and a BA from the George Washington University. Ladies and gentlemen, here to introduce Mr. Wynton Marsalis is Chief Counsel for Government and Public Affairs, Nina Ozlu Tunceli.
Good afternoon, and I bring greetings from Bob Lynch, who couldn't be here today. It's a great pleasure to introduce Wynton Marsalis. You know him as the artistic director of Jazz at Lincoln Center, and I've known him for several years as well because he's helped me present our public policy face to the arts before many, many important decision makers. It was about 16 years ago when we asked him to present to the United States Conference of Mayors, mayors all across the country in a room 3 times the size of this. And he brought down the house. He had them in tears, he had them laughing, he had them moved, he had them taking out their wallets to and not only to give personal support for the arts, but go back home to all of their city government, local arts agencies, and be determined to increase public funding for the arts. He's an amazing speaker. He's done enormous things for the arts. This year, he was our presenter for the Nancy Hanks Lecture on Arts and Public Policy that we present annually in conjunction with Arts Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center. How many, by chance, was at the Nancy Hanks Lecture series this year? Okay, great. So you're in for an incredible encore performance. And for those of you newbies, you are just hang on. Hang on. It's going to be an amazing presentation. It was probably one of the highlights of my career to be affiliated with that presentation. I've been presenting the Nancy Hanks Lecture Series for 17 years now, and it was probably one of the best because it truly brought to light how when you bring the arts and discussions about public policy and his grasp of history, of art history, music history, racial history, American history, world history, all together into one genius mind and presented with the most eloquence and artistic talents along with his Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. It literally touched the soul of everyone in that concert hall, bringing them to a standing ovation with tears in their eyes. No pressure. The very next day, we brought him up to Capitol Hill. He testified before a House subcommittee. I'm telling you, people are listening. The very next month, Senator Harkin on a Senate committee related to, the first congressional hearing was about NEA NEA funding for the arts. They were moved there, increase in funding there. Then the very next month, Senator Harkin, who introduced him at the Kennedy Center, talked about arts education before the new Secretary of Education. Now you know that the White House introduced its brand new music series with Wynton being the inaugural musical guest doing master classes at the White House. He's been selected as the cultural ambassador for the United Nations. Next month, he's being awarded by the government of France the Legion of Honor. It goes on, yeah. He is an amazing person, and he's also an amazing man who had his birthday yesterday. So welcome him, and wishing him a happy birthday, and listening to the American Ballad of the Arts.